Okay, so imagine you have to write a rule book. Not for a game, not for a school, but for over 1 billion people. A document that has to capture the hopes and dreams of an entire nation. That's what we're diving into today, the Constitution of India.
I mean, seriously, what does it take? This thing is one of the longest and most detailed constitutions on the planet, a truly massive blueprint for the world's largest democracy. So how on earth did they pull it off? Let's get into it.
You start at the beginning, right? And for the Constitution, that's the preamble. Now, this isn't just some formal introduction. Think of it as the mission statement for the entire country, a powerful promise that the people of India made to themselves.
These first few words, they're everything. They make it crystal clear that the real power doesn't come from a king or some foreign ruler. Nope, it comes from the citizens themselves. That's the whole foundation right there.
Okay, that's a mouthful, but this one line defines the entire character of the nation. Sovereign means India is independent, calling its own shots. Socialist and secular point to big goals, working for the welfare of all and treating every single religion with equal respect. And of course, democratic republic means a government run by the people.
So what's the first promise? Justice. And we're not just talking about courts and judges here. It means striving for fairness in society, in the economy, and in politics, for absolutely everyone.
Next up is liberty. This is huge. It's the guarantee that you have the freedom to think what you want, say what you believe, and worship as you see fit. In a country as diverse as India, this isn't just a nice to have, it's essential.
The third pillar is equality, and this is a two-parter. It means everyone is seen as equal in the eyes of the law, and just as important, that everyone gets a fair shot, an equal opportunity to succeed. For a society with a long history of hierarchy, this was a revolutionary idea.
And finally, we have fraternity. It's a word we don't use much, but it just means a sense of common brotherhood. It's the glue, right? It's the idea that for a nation this diverse to work, everyone has to feel connected and responsible for holding the whole thing together.
Okay, so the preamble gives us this beautiful, grand vision. But how does that actually affect your day-to-day life? Well, that's where the fundamental rights come in. These are the concrete, personal promises made to every single citizen.
And these aren't just suggestions. They are legally protected guarantees. You've got the right to equality, so you can't be discriminated against. The right to freedom, so you can speak your mind. And maybe the most important part? The right to constitutional remedies, which means if someone violates your rights, you can actually take them to court. And among all these, Article 21 is a real heavyweight. It looks simple, but it's the bedrock of all your freedoms, the right to life and personal liberty. It basically says the government can't just take away your life or freedom on a whim. There has to be a fair and legal process.
So that leads to a big question. Are these rights absolute? Can you just do anything you want? Well, no. The Constitution itself says there can be reasonable restrictions for things like national security or public order. And finding that balance between your freedom and the needs of society, well, that's where things get really interesting.
We've talked a lot about what the state guarantees to you, but a constitution is a two-way street. So let's flip the coin and look at the other side of the contract, the responsibilities of both the government and its citizens.
This chart lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have your fundamental rights. These are your legally enforceable protections. But on the other, you have these directive principles. Think of them as a moral compass or a to-do list for the government, guiding it toward creating an even better, fairer society in the long run.
And it's not just the government that has a to-do list. The Constitution also spells out the duties of every citizen. These are real, practical things that remind everyone they have a part to play in making the country stronger and keeping that spirit of fraternity alive.
So we have all these promises, rights, and duties. Fantastic. But who actually makes sure all this stuff happens? How is the government engine actually built? Let's pop the hood and look at the machinery of the state.
The framers were smart. To make sure no one person or group got too powerful, they split the government's power into 3 branches. You've got the executive, which carries out the laws, the legislature, which makes the laws, and the judiciary, which interprets them. It's a brilliant system of checks and balances.
And at the absolute heart of Indian democracy, you have Parliament. It's made up of 2 houses, and this is the great national stage where ideas are debated, laws are torn apart and put back together, and where the will of the people is ultimately turned into the law of the land.
Now look at this number, 106.
That's roughly how many times the Constitution has been amended. And this is so important because it proves this document isn't a relic stuck in the past. It's a living text designed to grow and adapt as the nation changes.
And that brings us to our final thought. This Constitution, it isn't just a history lesson. It's a living, breathing conversation that's happening right now. So as India keeps evolving, the big question is, how will this foundational blueprint adapt for the next generation? And the answer? Well, that doesn't just rest with politicians and judges. It rests with everyone.